Hey folks, welcome back. My name is Krishna, and in this video I'll share with you a couple of key shortcuts that I use when I approach digital coloring. The first thing that you want to be aware of is that you never want to color on the same layer that you have your inks. You'll notice in a lot of my drawings I will have each element in my composition on its own layer. So these are all representing inks for various aspects, like the dice here, Misty Night, and a few other characters. Everything is on its own layer. That's the first step. And I've grouped those into a layer folder by hitting Command G. And I've locked the layer down so that I don't accidentally color on my inks. Underneath all of my inks is going to be a brand new layer. I'll pick a color like red, and I will just simply use the magic wand tool. Keyboard shortcut is W. If you don't see that on your Photoshop, make sure that you go to the tools and choose magic wand. The keyboard shortcut there is W. And then you also want to make sure that you have anti-alias, contiguous, and sample all layers checked. These are really important. Now the tolerance here, this has to do with how precise or how imprecise your selection will be. And I've covered this on previous videos, but just know this, that if you have a tolerance of 1, it's a super precise selection. And you may not want that because of the fact that when you're dealing with black inks using pressure sensitivity, you do end up with some gray values in there. So I recommend using a tolerance of 60. And now what I'll do is I will select with the magic wand tool. I'm going to click on an area that is outside of my drawing. And I'm going to hold the Shift key to add to my selection. Now if I hit Alt Backspace, you can see that fills in my foreground color of red. So I'm going to simply repeat this process and just make my selections. I'll hit Alt Backspace, and you can see that it's capturing some content areas here, and I'm not worried about that so much right now, but I just want to be aware of it. Alt Backspace. And now if I want to get rid of the areas that I have colors on, all I have to do is switch to my lasso tool, keyboard shortcut L, and I'm just simply going to make a selection on this color layer, and I'll hit Command X. I'll do the same thing for this brick, Command X. And then I also have this explosion here, and Command X. And you can get rid of that. And there's just another area that I have to fill in. So Alt Backspace. Alt Backspace fills in your foreground color. So I've got, I just have to get Iron Fist's shoes. There we go. So now that I've got that, I've got basically a layer that contains color for all of the areas that are outside of the elements that I have in my composition. That's really important because what I'll do now is I want to use that color layer to now color the elements themselves. So how do I do that? I'm going to hold down the Command key or the Control key on a Windows machine, and I'm going to simply click on the thumbnail preview of that layer. Notice it reactivates the selection around everything that's in the background. Now I'm going to make a new layer. You can go down here and click the new layer icon in the layers panel. And I'm going to inverse my selection. That basically means I'm going to select the areas that are currently not selected. So if I hold down Shift Command I, now everything that contains the characters should be selected. I will switch to a different color. I'll pick like a greenish color and I'll fill it in. So this is really important now because I've got all of my elements. If I ever want to select the background for whatever reason, I can easily do that by hitting the Command key. And then I can hit Command D to deselect. And if I want to select everything that contains only the characters and the buildings, etc., I can click on the thumbnail preview for that, Command click, and basically I've got that selection. So that's really, really important. I think what I also want to do here is I'm going to include this area down below. I'll just hit Command X to cut that. I'll go to my background layer and I'll just add that red. Okay, so now that I've got these elements here, maybe I'll label this layer as background, and I'll call this elements. Background. So now that I've got the elements layer, I can simply use the magic wand tool. I can select, say, the costume that Iron Fist is wearing. I'm holding down the Shift key to add to my selection. And then I can go to Command J. It takes the selection, pops it onto its own layer. Command U. And I can make it a little bit darker. I can adjust the green. Command U brings up the hue saturation panel. And so now I've got the green part of his costume all on one layer. I can do the same thing for Iron Fist's skin tone. Holding down the Shift key with the magic wand tool allows me to select all of those elements at once. There's some areas here that I have gaps. If I zoom in here, you can see that I can't select his thumb. If I do, it'll select the building behind him. So what I'll do here is I'll switch to the lasso tool by hitting the L key. And then I can hold down the Shift key to add to my selection. So if you're in the magic wand tool, you can always switch to a different selection tool and it will preserve everything you currently have. So I'll continue back with the magic wand tool, hitting the W key. Here you'll notice that there's also some gaps in Iron Fist's skin and his mask. I'll worry about that here in a minute. Let me hit Command J first, Command U. I'll change the hue, give him kind of a skin. You can use the hue saturation and lightness to go ahead and dial in the color. And then I'm just going to simply cover those gaps that I see over here. Right? And I can use the magic wand tool, Alt backspace. So I can actually fill those gaps in with my colors. So that's another really powerful technique. And then at any point, if I don't like the color of the skin or if I want to adjust that for whatever reason, I can easily do that independently of any of the other colors that I have. So that's really, really helpful. Now, let's go ahead and color his outfit. So we'll go back to the elements layer. We'll hold down the Shift key with the magic wand tool. And if you ever over select, like here, I've accidentally selected everything else, I can hit Command Z. And again, for those areas that I can't quite precisely get with the magic wand tool, I can shift to the lasso tool, pressing the L key. And then I can zoom out. I've got his belt. I'll do the same thing over there. Again, I'm holding down the Shift key to add to my selection, and I'm switching between the lasso tool and the magic wand tool. And from here I can hit Command J, jumps it to its own layer, Command U. And I want to make that a little bit more saturated, like so. And I'll kind of rinse and repeat this process. I'm not going to color the whole thing here, but I can use the eyedropper tool, I, to sample that yellow, and I can hit Option Delete to fill that in. So, oh, I forgot his skin. So every time I'm coloring, I want to be able to put all of the related colors on the same layer. So that makes it very easy for me to make adjustments later on. So the last tip that I'm going to leave you with here is once you have these elements already selected, the only thing I'm lacking here is just coloring his eyes and his teeth. And I could go in with the brush tool and I can select it, but I want to show you another more efficient way. So if I zoom in here and I go back to the elements layer, remember that's the layer that contains all the base color for all the characters and such. If I switch to the lasso tool and just make a selection around the eyes, holding down the Shift key, add to my selection, holding down the Shift key, adding to my selection, I've got the eyes and the teeth selected. I'm on the elements layer, Command J, Command U, and I can take a lightness and drag it over here to where I've got white. So that's a very fast way to work. I don't have to, make very precise selections when I'm doing that. So if you found this to be helpful, let me know by giving it a thumbs up so more folks can find it. I will have this particular illustration fully colored and inked. It's on my Instagram, @KrishnaDraws. Don't forget to follow me there. And if you're a subscriber, thanks for subscribing. As we're pushing to 1,000 subscribers, let me know what you'd like to see, and I'll be happy to go ahead and add that in for an upcoming tutorial. Thanks again. Talk to you soon.